AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Front Stretch, brought to you by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It is November 25th. The NASCAR season is 1 week over. And we are just, 11 weeks from the start of a brand new season?
Something like that. I can't wait already.
It's the shortest off-season in sports, and yet it's so damn long. I cannot wait for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that happens in that 11 weeks here in the off-season. You know, as we know, is the silly season with dirt and NASCAR and whatnot. I mean, we got a lot of stuff to cover here in the next 11 weeks.
And we got a lot of stuff to cover today, too. So let's just get right into it. Turn 1, presented by the Auto Connection in Lincoln. As you can tell by the way the weather went this week, it's starting to cool off. I don't want to jinx it because I've said that twice now, and then in the middle of the week that is going to happen, it warms right back up to 60s and 70s.
Well, keep jinxing it then.
Let's talk some NASCAR. How about it? Let's recap Homestead as we always do in Turn 1. We kind of talk about the race that was. And really, I think in this turn, we're going to focus less on what happened, and we'll focus more on the two drivers that had the most going on in that race, and that has to do with our championship contenders, Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski. I was shocked at what I saw on Sunday. Walking into the race, Jimmy Johnson didn't have the best car. That's 2 weeks in a row now. Phoenix, he didn't have the best car, but he worked on it and got it better, but then he blew a right front tire, which I still argue, and I will always argue that he actually blew a tire. And then he goes into Sunday at Homestead, and they don't have the fastest car. I believe he qualified, let me look at my notes, qualified 10th. So not a bad qualifying position, but our eventual champion ended up qualifying 3rd. So he had one car out there they had to keep their eye on in practice, and not necessarily pay attention to, but just kind of keep their eye on their lap times, and they had to get it better, and they didn't. I was very shocked at that they still had trouble like that, and he continued to have trouble all throughout the race, although he was up front, and he was actually leading. At one point in time, he was the championship winner. Walking into the race, had a 20-point deficit, but he was the championship leader at one point in time in the race, but then issues late in the race, last green flag stop, failed lug nut, and they didn't get them all on there. I feel absolutely horrible for that pit guy. I don't know the name of the rear tire changer, but he is catching a lot of flack for that mistake when we all know that a lug nut not getting tight or getting on the tire has nothing to do with the rear end failing in the back of a car.
No, and that's really unfortunate. I mean, NASCAR, and even down into the dirt track level, this is such a team-oriented sport, and like you said, that poor tire changer, the flack that he's getting, I mean, he feels like the world's got to be on his shoulders right now. He just lost the championship. Jimmy Johnson is a championship caliber driver. The whole 48 low Chevrolet team, they're all championship crew members. And one little mistake ended up costing them. Now,
but that's just it, though. That little mistake,
yep.
It didn't cost him. I mean, whether he'd have been out there leading the race or not, when that rear end failed, it was going to fail regardless of if the lug nut. Now that kind of was my point, was that he seems to be catching all this flack, and yet hindsight says it wasn't his fault.
No, the rear end blew up. The gears blew up. I mean, there ain't nothing he could do about that.
That ended Jimmy Johnson's day. It also ended his year and his chance at the championship, and it also ended his battle for second place. He ends up falling back to 3rd in the championship point standings. And then Brad Keselowski gets exactly done when he needs to do, finishing 15th, which, you can't sit here and say, well, Brad finished 15th, so if Jimmy would have continued to lead and continue to race, he may have won the race, and, blah, blah, blah. I know that if Jimmy Johnson would have been leading on that last run, that Brad wouldn't have finished 15th. He'd have probably finished in the top 10 just to be safe. He'd have driven a little bit harder, but he's, you kind of back off when you've locked up the championship. There's no sense in beating and banging it and destroying your equipment. But Brad Keselowski ends up going on and winning the championship. I got a text message from Andrew right as it happened. He was so happy, so excited. Andrew, I'm so happy for you that your driver won.
You know what? It did. And I got a huge poster. If you guys haven't seen it, it says, "It's Miller Time, 2012 Sprint Cup champion," with a good-looking picture of Brad Keselowski on it.
I get a kick out of this kid because he is not the champion that we're used to. Last, 7 years? It's been Tony Stewart or Jimmy Johnson. And those two guys are
They're the best at what they do.
Well,
I'm
not saying that Brad's not the best at what he's. Obviously, he's the best. He's a championship, but these guys are. Let's say they're polished. Tony joked about it last year in the post race that he was going to be drinking a lot of beer that night and he was going to be getting everybody drunk, but he wasn't drunk at the time.
No.
Let's. This has been well publicized, and if you haven't seen it yet, go watch the YouTube video of Brad Keselowski's interview on SportsCenter because it is quite possibly the funniest thing in the world. He is doing a stand-up interview, and he has got a Pilsner that is about the size of his midsection, from his waist to the top of his shoulders. I mean, it is a massive Pilsner, and this is what it sounded like.
Brad, congratulations. Anyone who races dreams of winning the championship. You just did it. What's it like?
Pretty damn awesome. I got a little buzz going here. I've been drinking for a little bit, but it's been pretty good, man. I can't lie. Look at these guys behind me. They're pretty excited. I'm excited. This has been one hell of a day. I got one hell of a team, and it doesn't get any better than this.
You got to give him credit for that because that is, and you have said it so many times, buddy, that's the champion that NASCAR needs.
Absolutely. Whether you like him or you don't like him, regardless, had that been, Jimmy McMurray or Casey Kane or anybody, to have that kind of emotion and that kind of swagger at your championship speech, even on ESPN right there, as he's getting interviewed so many times in the last 7 years, we've seen such polished, politically correct drivers that we have this guy come out, and to me, he represents more of NASCAR than what these other guys did.
Oh, and it continued. Here's clip number 2.
What have you said to him? What has he said to you since you've won?
Talking about his father, Brad's father.
We did it. That's pretty simple, right, guys? We did it.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Why make it any more complicated than that?
I absolutely love it. He's absolutely right. Why make it more complicated than that?
He kind of sounds like Bart Simpson when he gets drunk.
He does a little bit, yeah.
I mean, he kind of did right there. I actually watched that right when it happened live. He come up the first time. He had it full. It was about halfway gone. All of a sudden, he shows up again. It was full again.
Let's watch it again. And please, people, while you're sitting at home drinking your coffee, listening to the show, pull up YouTube and watch it. It's about a quarter full, but then about the next half of that cup is all beer foam. It's all head. And he just keeps drinking. Every time they're asking a question, he just keeps drinking. And I give him props because he worked that.
I gave him 8 brownie points. So he's only negative 417 in my book now. He's doing a lot better.
Later that night on Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain, he gives an answer that buddy, I know has absolutely won you over in the favor of Brad Keselowski.
You're a pretty outspoken guy, BK. You live in a world where the politically correct sometimes gets a little tiresome. Now that you are more than a Sprint Cup driver, you are the Sprint Cup champion with a certain role now as a representative or maybe spokesman for the sport. Should we be at all worried that your outspokenness is going to suffer as a result of that?
No, man. Outspoken is great. We all need somebody to keep us honest. I need somebody to keep me honest. This sport, motor racing, not just NASCAR, the sport of motor racing needs somebody to keep it honest. And you know what? If that's the lone contribution I can give to this sport, so be it. Because that's how much I care for this sport, and I want to see it be successful.
Absolutely. 100% dead on.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, we're all kind of tired of this, the complete contrast between Jimmy Johnson and Brad Keselowski. I'm not even entirely sure Jimmy Johnson would have gotten drunk if he'd have won himself a 6th championship. He'd have had a beer, and then he'd have gone and talked to Chad about what they need to do in 2013. Brad just says, you know what? My sponsor's Miller Lite, and I'm going to enjoy it.
I hope he gets a real beer.
He's going to go pick up Chasers as a sponsor for next year. It's the pill you take the day after to solve a hangover.
Miller Lite and Chasers. That's interesting. If I was Brad Keselowski, I'd done the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah. Nobody's faulting him.
No, and I'm not faulting
I don't think I've heard anything bad. Anybody dogging him or anything.
But
I think he
what
did
I'm
the right
getting
thing.
at is after the last 7 or 8 years, and we've seen these guys that stand up there, they look so politically groomed and polished and whatnot, and it's like, ugh. NASCAR, honestly, in my opinion, NASCAR's got to be loving the attention that Brad Keselowski has brought NASCAR in lieu of because of his interviews.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. His interviews have been the topic of conversation for last week. I mean, they're absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
It's real.
And he's one thing I've picked up in the other interviews I've watched with him since the post-race interviews, how appreciative he is of everybody who helped him get to where he is. He has gone out of his way to thank not only his crew and his crew chief and his organization, but his amazing fans, his family, his sponsors. I mean, he has gone out of his way to become very appreciative, and that's one thing that came off was that he was able to convey that and not have to completely be this polished and proper spokesperson.
To sum it up with the way I feel about BK is NASCAR ought to be looking at this young driver. Now, we've all known that Tony Stewart, Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson, these guys for years have been the face of NASCAR. I think what they now have is a young kid that's marketable as the new face of NASCAR. I think the torch maybe hasn't necessarily been rehomed. It's been passed on to BK, but I think in years following, he may not win a championship, next year or even the year after. He's going to have several championships, but I think that's just going to help build his swagger, his confidence, and I think what we're seeing now is the new face of NASCAR. This is the guy that NASCAR needs to bring new fans into the sports to put butts in the seats.
Let's talk about the rest of the race. Jeff Gordon completely overshadowed, and this is the most overshadowed victory of all season is at Homestead Miami Speedway. Jeff Gordon gets the victory. How about that, guys? Comes back from the turmoil and the issues he had at Phoenix to win another race.
I don't care.
I think that says
great.
a lot.
I think it's great, and I think him and Clint drove each other clean this week, and it was really, really cool.
What is this? I don't care.
Jeff Gordon is a multi-champion in NASCAR. When you become somebody that's won, 3, 4, 5 NASCAR championships, you are. I mean, it's one thing to strap on a suit, and I've always said this, when you strap on a suit, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. But when you win multiple championships, you're even at a higher pinnacle at that point. I'm still not over what he did to Clint Boyer at Phoenix.
Well, I still don't have a problem with what he did to Clint Boyer at Phoenix. This is racing. This is what happens all the time. There's retaliation. And don't give me the, well, he could have hurt him. Because the second any driver steps into a car, regardless if somebody's retaliating on him, they can get hurt. That's the name of the game. It's racing
one thing
hard,
to retaliate, but when you do it in the way that Jeff Gordon did, that's what I have a problem with.
What did he do? He spun him into the wall.
Okay.
Well, tell me what he did.
You would have done that yourself.
Yeah. If I'd have been mad like Jeff Gordon because Clint Boyer wrecked me 5 other times, absolutely I would have wrecked him. Absolutely.
See, I wouldn't have done that.
I've had to talk you off of the fence. You were telling me about how 1 week at Crawford County, you were just going to go out there and wreck one guy who wrecked you by mistake. You told me at the beginning of the season. And we sat there and talked about it for about 3 hours, and you finally calmed down.
But ultimately, did I?
No, because you finally calmed down. Well, Jeff Gordon didn't have time to calm down in the car. He waited a lap, and then he wrecked him. Afterwards, he said, yeah, I feel bad for ruining Clint's championship hopes, and I feel bad that I handled it the way I did, but I needed to send him a message, and I did, and he absolutely did. I don't think a lot of drivers are going to be messing with Jeff Gordon for a while. Just like after the Texas incident with Burton, nobody messes with you when you do it like that. Well, I have absolutely no problem with the way he happened. I have a problem with the way Clint Boyer's crew handled the whole situation.
I thought that was awesome.
I thought it was awesome myself.
The thing is, I thought both incidents were bad, but I thought they were both awesome at the same time. NASCAR needed something exciting right there.
That I do agree with.
Look at Josh Most. How many people went after Josh Most? Josh Most is sitting here right now. He'd be laughing because he could probably he doesn't have enough fingers to name how many people have wrecked him after a race before.
And he even admits it himself. And we sat here right in the studio talking to us right on the air and said, you know what? I probably drive too hard, but that's the way I race.
That's how you win races. You got to race hard.
Exactly.
There's a difference between racing hard and just deliberately taking somebody out, though.
Well, that happens every week at dirt tracks.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Every week.
There's a reason.
It's pretty close.
It happens all the time. I saw it at Crawford County happen a couple of times.
Andrew, have you ever taken somebody out on purpose? Just wrecked them?
Yeah.
You have.
Do you remember what happened at Harlan a couple of, 2 months ago between Dale Ransom and
Jeff Stevens?
Yes.
Yeah.
That wasn't retaliation.
Were you there for that?
No, but I heard all about it.
We heard about it. That's when you hear about something that's hearsay. It's third party source.
The story was that he could have gotten loose and got up into Jeff Stevens, but more than likely it wasn't. Those two have had a history. I mean, it happens all the time. It's just the way it goes. And I mean, you can sit there and talk to the driver after the race and say, well, listen, I didn't really appreciate you doing this. You think that's going to have as much effect as a destroyed race car?
I've been in certain situations where I've gotten into people, not undeliberate, but I've gotten into people. I didn't wreck them, didn't spin them out, but I've had my butt chewed out, and I've chewed other butts out. But to me, it's just wrong to go out there and willfully, just destroy a car just because you got mad. I mean, come on, grow up a little bit. And it's, and I'm not saying it's any less or any more, but when you're a multi-champion, come on, you got to hold yourself to a higher standard.
It's funny because as you said that, I'm just going through all the replays of the times Dale Earnhardt Sr. wrecked somebody and the times Jimmy Johnson has wrecked somebody. And, oh, my God, our favorite driver, Tony Stewart, has gone out there and wrecked somebody.
I've seen
Carl Edwards. These are all known as upstanding, good, clean drivers, and yet they have done things like that before.
They've gotten into people, but I don't think it was the sole intention to dump them and destroy their car.
Have you ever heard of the Edwards-Keselowski feud?
Yes, that one I heard of. Yes.
Okay, well, that one's happened.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about what just happened here a week and a half ago.
It's no different.
Well,
in the in-car camera and on the shot of the front straightaway, you can see Carl Edwards turn right to wreck Keselowski. It's plain as day, and he gets away scot-free. My point is, this is a part of racing. May not be the most welcomed part of racing, but just like Andrew said, it's what NASCAR needed.
Oh, I said that last week.
This is just like what NASCAR needed with Brad Keselowski. Let's finish up Homestead as we got a little sidetracked. Clint Boyer comes home with a second-place finish. Ryan Newman came home third. Kyle Busch fourth. Greg Biffle fifth. Again, Kyle Busch, leading the most laps, doesn't get the victory. He had fuel mileage issues once again. 8 straight times that guy has led the most laps and not got the victory. That has got to be killing him.
Oh,
Him of all people, as competitive as those two are, the Busch brothers, that has got to be killing them.
One likes to race you hard, and one just wants to beat you hard.
What? Just around the corner in Turn 2, we're going to talk about the championship standings, how they wound up, and some interesting facts and statistics I was looking at over the week, and I'm frankly shocked about. Stick with us. We'll be right back. It's the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Summer's winding down, and before you know it, we will be dealing with sub-zero temperatures. Now's the time to get your car or truck serviced at Auto Connection in Lincoln. Family-owned and operated, Kevin and his crew will do a thorough inspection of your vehicle to make sure it's in peak running condition. Finding potential issues before they fail is always less costly than waiting until it's too late. Schedule an appointment online today at AutoConnectionLincolnNE.com or give Kevin a call today at 402-477-8200.
This is Andrew from Kaziski Auto Parts. Kaziski Auto Parts is an insurance quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next day fashion. Kaziski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kaziski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kaziski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, brought to you by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome to it. This is Turn 2 on the Front Stretch. We're going to break down the point standings, how it all finished, and some of the interesting statistics that I found throughout the season. As we talked about, Brad Keselowski comes home with the hardware. He is your 2012 NASCAR Sprint Cup champion. Clint Boyer makes his way up into second. Jimmy Johnson falls to third. Casey Kane fourth. Greg Biffle fifth. Denny Hamlin sixth. Matt Kenseth seventh. Kevin Harvick eighth. Tony Stewart ninth. Jeff Gordon 10th. Martin Truex Jr. 11th. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 12th. Truex Jr. and Dale Jr. will not be on the stage at Champions Week in Las Vegas because only the top 10 are invited up on the stage. So let's talk about the championship. I'm going to tell you guys the one thing that I found surprising in the championship, and then you guys can give me yours. The thing that stuck out to me the most was the statistics. I'm kind of a numbers geek here. Jimmy Johnson had the most bonus points with 49. The number that shocked me the most was the driver who had the most DNFs, Jimmy Johnson.
That just tells you all the other races were really good.
He had 6 DNFs. The first one came at Daytona, the first race of the season. He was on lap number 2 when he was caught up in an accident. Then back at Daytona, had another accident. And then Atlanta had an accident. Now, here's the one that surprises me again. He had 2 races where there was engine issues. 2 failures, one at Talladega and one at Michigan. And that completely surprises me that an organization that has had as much success and is so focused on making sure that their product is the absolute best had their championship driver have 2 engine failures in one season. And the fact that it's Jimmy Johnson. So that number right there, the 6 DNFs, obviously is the one number that if you could have that go away, he would have absolutely destroyed this field in the championship standings. I think he'd have probably had it locked up by Texas.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more.
Texas or even Martinsville, so because he won at Texas and Martinsville, so I think he'd have locked him up after one of those 2 wins. That's what surprised me the most about the championship. But is there a driver or a stat or something in the championship standings that surprises you the most?
The number one thing that most impresses me goes to one driver and one organization, Michael Waltrip Racing, with Clint Boyer sitting second in points.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is wow. Here just like a year and a half, 2 years ago, Michael Waltrip Racing was kind of the butt of jokes. I mean, he wasn't doing anything, wasn't finishing well, and all of a sudden this year it came out, and, Andrew, last year you said down at Kansas that, with the 5-hour energy drink with Clint Boyer piloting that car around this year, look out for good things to come for him, and you were absolutely right. I mean, Clint Boyer, all my hats off to Michael Waltrip Racing. I mean, they were the most improved race organization, I think, hands down.
And it wasn't just Clint Boyer that came to town. Mark Martin, with the limited schedule he tied for the most points or poles with 4. Brian Vickers in that 55, he did very well for himself. And 2 of their 3 cars got into the chase for the first time. They haven't even had 1 car in the chase in their company's history. They got 2 of the 3 in there. And had they had somebody full-time in that 55, I think they very easily would have made the chase. I think they would have gotten all 3 cars in.
The one team, and I hate saying this because he's a great driver, hands down a great driver. The one team I'm kind of the most disappointed with, Greg Biffle, because he led the points for so long, getting into the chase, and then once he makes the chase, it's like he just kind of fizzled out. It
seemed to not really just be Greg Biffle; it seemed to be Roush Fenway Racing at all. I mean, I know Matt Kenseth won a race in there. I believe he won at Talladega, but. Still, I mean, he won at Talladega. It just seemed like other than that win, it was just like, what did they do?
Yeah.
What did they do? Andrew, do you have one thing that kind of surprises you?
Yeah, I do a little bit. When Penske was in the interview right there, they were kind of saying how Dodge, their engine, did not have a failure at all this year. That kind of really surprised me. I think flat out, Jimmy Johnson and Clint Boyer should have ran first and second this chase. I think Keselowski did a great job. I think he's a very good driver. But flat out, the only reason why Keselowski won was consistency. He was the only driver without a DNF in the chase, or really,
you're right,
without falling out. Without Jimmy Johnson wrecked at KC. He wrecked at Dega. He wrecked at Phoenix, and then
Daytona.
He broke the last race, and he still almost won the thing. Clint Boyer, the same deal. He had Phoenix and Dega. Give us both those races back. It'd have been a whole lot chase, but it's over.
Yeah.
Brad Keselowski won.
Now, I do want to throw out that Dodge has got a lot better chance of having that record. They are, by the way, the first championship manufacturer, and not the manufacturing winning championship. That went to Chevy again. But they are the first manufacturer that had their driver win the championship that didn't have an engine failure all season long. Now, they only had to make 72 engines for the year. 36 races times 2 different drivers. Hendrick, however, in those Chevys had to make 144 engines. And then we're not even talking about just outside of Hendrick. I mean, the engines they sell to Stuart Haas, that's another 72 plus Danica raced for them for 10 races, so that's another 10 engines. Hendrick had a lot more engines that had the ability to fail because their numbers were so much higher, but still, who goes out there and produces 72 engines? It wasn't just that Brad didn't have an engine failure. It was everybody who raced in that 22. There wasn't a single engine failure in the Dodge manufacturer, and they're done now.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say that. How ironic that here it is, a Dodge wins the Cup this year. No engine failures. They're not coming back in 2013. It makes you wonder if somebody in middle to upper middle management at Dodge is going, I wonder here.
And let's keep in mind, it wasn't Dodge's choice to not be in NASCAR. I think it was something that they came to they said, we really can't make a deal with anybody right now. I think Richard Petty Motorsports was the only organization that they could have switched to, and they went back with Fords. I don't think there was anybody available for him. Now, there might have been some smaller teams that were running half schedules, and I think in that case, Dodge went, you know what, we're not going to piddle around with a bunch of teams that run half schedules and this kind of stuff. If we're going to be in this sport, we're going to be in this sport full bore, so we would rather bow out. And I think it was a choice that was kind of forced on them, and they accepted it and walked away. With that also being said, I don't think they're going to be out for very long. It sounds like they're working on deals for 2014, 2015. It's not going to be this long span that they were out like they were out last time when they left the sport in 79, I think.
I think it was 79 or 80,
and they didn't come back until 2001 with Ray Evernham.
Yep.
And his organization. So, very surprising stuff on the scale there. How about Denny Hamlin, who ended up finishing 6th in the points, tied for the most wins in the season, had himself 5. But did it kind of seem to you guys like he disappeared the last 6 races?
I see right here 17 top 10s. That's one of the lowest out of all the guys in there. You ain't going to be able to keep up with those guys he just fell out, like you said. He just didn't go anywhere.
Well, let's talk about these some of these numbers that talks about consistency. Jimmy Johnson had the best numbers of everybody, except those DNFs just killed him. He had 4 poles on the season. Of those 4 poles, he went pole to checkered flag, won the race, and that was at Texas and Martinsville. Key for him during the chase, it was really able to elevate him back up into the championship standings, and he ended up taking over the point standings after Texas. After Texas. Had 5 wins on the season, 18 top 5s, and 24 top 10s. He led the field in poles. He tied with poles, tied with wins, led the field in top 5s, top 10s, and also led the field in DNFs, which just kills me. I mean, I don't think of Jimmy Johnson as over a 36-race season only finishing 30 of them.
Yeah, I mean, it almost leaves you speechless. I mean, do you think this will produce a chip on him and his team's shoulders to come out and perform even better next year?
Oh, yeah. He's a preseason prediction winner. I think everybody's got that in their heads right now.
Well, I was kind of wondering this on Sunday listening to the post-race interviews. There's a time when an organization has that decade of dominance, basically. You know, they talk about in football, they call it the dynasty of the decade. You know, it was the Cowboys during the 90s, and it was the Patriots at the turn of 2000. It was the 49ers in the 80s. And then at one point in time, all of a sudden, the dynasty, the chink in the armor, there's a crack in the shield. It all begins to crack and crumble away from them, and you begin to find ways of beating them. And you see it right now with the Patriots, who haven't won a Super Bowl in several years. Are we seeing the beginning of this with Jimmy Johnson, that 48 team, and Hendrick Motorsports not being as dominant? Is this where the rest of the field has caught up to him?
I'm going to say no, because racing is different than football. I love both sports. I watch them both like it's the back of my hand. I mean, football, you have a line. One man goes down, you're done. With racing, you still got your crew, you still got your engine guys, but if you provide a good race car, you got a crew chief and you got a driver. If Jimmy Johnson gets hurt, yeah, of course, Hendrick's the number 48 team's done, but racing's just a fuzz different. You can't beat that same guy. There's so many racers, when they're good, they're always good until they're out of shape and the reaction time gets slower.
Well, has he lost his touch? I know we're only 2 years removed from his last championship, but
he should have won this year. He should have. Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, except he had himself 6 DNFs, and 2 of them came at the end of the season.
Yeah, but I think
he ended up finishing at Phoenix, but he finished 36 laps down.
But the silver trim on the dark cloud here is those DNFs. I think if I'm Jimmy Johnson, knowing that I had the best numbers, but I had 6 DNFs, which is also the highest amount of DNFs on any driver, that's just going to propel me and give me a chip on my shoulder just to come back and make sure I can kick some royal behind next year in 2013. I'm going to make a statement saying, look, guys, we're for real. Everybody knows that team is for real, but next year, it's not a make it or break it season because they don't need to make it. I mean, everybody knows who they are, but they're going to come out running and gunning even harder next year.
And look at this stat. The next driver who has the next most DNFs, his teammate, Jeff Gordon, had 5 DNFs. Between Hendrick Motorsports and 2 of their top-tier cars, they had 11 DNFs.
To me, that shows that it's not their team. It's something in the organization back at the shop. Something is not right.
And let's face it, I mean, 3 of the DNFs for Jimmy were accidents. You can't help that.
No.
I mean, as much as good as you can be, you can't help that. Jeff Gordon, the same thing. He just had some freak DNFs this year. I mean, just some of the weirdest things. I remember, I believe it was one race, he went out, cut a tire. They came in, they fixed the tire, they replaced the tire, went out 1 lap later, blows the tire again. A brand new Goodyear Eagle blows the tire, comes in, gets another replacement, blows it a 3rd time, and that time he hit the wall and he was done for the day.
The one thing, we've talked about how I felt about Jeff Gordon after the Phoenix race. The one thing I will give Jeff Gordon is the That-A-Boy award, because we didn't think earlier this season he was even going to make the chase.
Yeah.
And he raced hard, and he raced really, really good, and he raced his way back in the chase. If there's an inspiration in that top 10 outside of Bread Cows, or the top 12 outside of BK, would be Jeff Gordon. There's a guy in his team and his organization that knows how to get it. They know how to get it done, and they showed up each and every week, and they made it into the chase when nobody thought they would even have a chance to be there.
Last question I want to ask you guys before we wrap up this turn. We talked about Jimmy Johnson, how consistency wins, and how he got himself, he leads or is tied with the most of all the drivers in most of the categories: poles, wins, top 5s, top 10s. The guy who is second in a lot of those categories is Brad Keselowski. He didn't get a pole this year, but he got himself 5 wins, 13 top 5s, 23 top 10s, and only had 1 DNF. What I want to ask you guys as we walk out of this turn and head down the backstretch: did Brad Keselowski beat Jimmy Johnson at his game?
I would say yes this year.
No.
You don't think so? Why not?
Look at the numbers. I mean, you said it right there. How many wrecks? Like I said, what happened at Dega? He can't help that one right there.
Well, consistency though, he had 5 less DNFs. He was more consistent than Jimmy, and when Jimmy won on that streak of 5, that was the name of the game for him, was consistency.
Is it Brad Keselowski beat Jimmy at his own game, or was it the team that beat the other team at their own game?
I've heard this all week long that Paul Wolf is being called the new Chad Knaus. How mad would you be? Yeah, I know, it's a little premature, but how mad would you be as Chad Knaus if you're 2 years removed from a streak that will probably never be broken, never even come close to, and all of a sudden some little punk who's won his first championship sitting on top of a box is being compared as you?
I don't think I would be mad if I was Chad Knaus. Now, you guys are going to make fun of me for saying this, but look at Jesse Sabine in the
We make fun of you
mods.
for anything. So
Jesse Sabine wins all these races. Next year, 2013, it's well known that he's going to A-Mod racing. So if some local Yoko shows up, starts winning all these sport mod races, he's going to be compared to the new Jesse Sabine.
Well, yeah, that's different. That's different, though. Jesse's not racing sport mods. He's racing A mods.
No, because Jesse came from the sport mods.
Okay, well, he's left that legendary mark behind. What I'm getting at is Chad isn't finished with his mark.
No,
he's
but
not even close
if
to being done.
I'm Paul Wolf and you're going, good Lord, Paul, you're almost like the new Chad Knaus. I'm going to take that as a compliment. If I'm Chad Knaus, I'm going to take it as a compliment that you think I'm that great that you need to tell somebody, well, you're about as good as Chad Knaus.
They only won 1 championship. I think Tony Stewart's the second most comparable driver to Jimmy Johnson, and I really don't think that Paul Wolf is anything
if you had to pick one crew chief out of all of NASCAR, or any one current or retired crew chief in NASCAR to compare to Chad Knaus, who would it be? I would go Greg Zipadelli.
I would disagree with that.
Ray Evernham.
Ray Evernham, but I think active crew chiefs, because you got to take active crew chiefs that are like Chad Knaus.
I'm saying, if you want to go...
Now, I honestly, I got to go Paul Wolf. I don't think he's at Chad's level, but he is strategic, and he is a brilliant crew chief on top of that box.
See, if you had to go active crew chiefs, I'm taking Darian Grubb.
I'm going Brian Patty.
No, I disagree with Darian Grubb. He won the championship last year, but I think Paul Wolf, the pit strategy he came up with 9 times out of 10 to get Brad back up into the top 5 so that Brad could at least have a chance to race for the win, I think that makes Paul Wolf like Chad Knaus, because Chad was able to sit there and say, okay, we're running 20th. Let's go on a 2-tire stop right here, get ourselves up into the top 5. Hold on to as many positions as you can, and when the caution comes out, we'll get you 4 fresh Goodyears, and we'll get you back out there, and you'll be up into the area where you can start racing again. I think that's what makes Paul Wolf a lot like Chad Knaus, but I'm not ready to call him the next Chad Knaus. I want to see him win one or two more championships. Wow, another long segment. I apologize. We're going to have to make the next two turns pretty quick, so we're going to take it low into turns 3 and 4, and we're going to wrap this baby up for the rest of the season. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Drivers, track owners, and sponsors, it's time to step out of the amateur world and have LostDogDesign.com build you a professional website, manage your social media, and design your graphics. Let Raina and Dave free up your time for more important things like driving and running your track. Lost Dog Design is your one-stop shop for social media, web design, and graphic design. Stop getting beat by the competition. Give Raina and Dave a call today at 402-557-6032 or visit LostDogDesign.com.
You're listening to The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio. Brought to you by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to The Front Stretch. This is turn 3. We got to keep her a little bit short because we've blabbed a little bit too much in turns 1 and 2. Brad Keselowski all this week has gone on his media tour where he's been doing all these different interviews. And probably the hardest thing after winning the championship is the next 36 hours because you got to go to all the major sports networks. You got to do interviews. You got to do all this different stuff, appearances. There's really no time to slow down and nurse your hangover. And I got a really big kick out of it. Again, I'm going to refer you to go into YouTube, search Brad Keselowski on Letterman. He did a top 10 of why you wouldn't be a good NASCAR driver. So I thought, you know what? Let's sit down and compile our own list of top 10 of why you wouldn't be a good dirt track driver. So these, again, number 10 of why you wouldn't make a good dirt track driver. Number 10, you don't like to complain. That's
what?
Yeah.
What?
I know. It's
really?
Surprising.
Why?
Dirt track drivers.
What?
Drivers tend to bitch.
Listen.
Number 9, if you have less speeding tickets than Buddy has wins.
That ain't hard to do.
No, it's. I've got more speeding tickets than you have wins.
Hey, one time in 19 years can't go wrong.
If your beer of choice is either Sam Adams or Woodchuck, I would make a great driver, and I drink Sam Adams and Woodchuck.
Yeah. I think of Woodchuck. I'm thinking of Digger down on the bottom of turn 4.
I think of Sam Adams. I think of a quilt.
By the way, did you see the Digger merch truck at the NASCAR race this year at Kansas?
Yeah, I was half tempted to buy some.
It was empty. I mean, that guy has a personality of his own. Number 7, if you get nervous merging at 65. All right, I qualify for that one. I do get nervous merging at 65.
I've been with you when you've merged. Yeah, it scares the hell out of me.
It's a lot easier if you just don't even look.
We're in Kansas, and he merges right in front of a semi at 65 mile an hour.
He moved.
Did he close his eyes when he did it?
No, that sounded like me in the passenger seat, though.
It was a little more high-pitched than that. Top 10 reasons you wouldn't make it as a dirt track driver. If you think bodywork includes sweating to the 80s.
Let's get physical.
Number 5, if your victory lane speech would not include your mom, your dog, or God. That's a prereq. You got to have those 3 things in your victory lane speech.
I think Jesus Christ, Mama Goki, and my dog Diesel.
Mama Goki.
Mama Goki.
Number 4, if you think pulling a tear off has to do with grabbing another piece of toilet paper.
Honey, get me a tear off. I got to wipe my tail end here.
Number 3, the third reason why you wouldn't make it as a good dirt track driver. If you think taking the white flag means the flagman has surrendered. Number 2, if you think having the nickname Ricky Bobby's third cousin twice removed, makes you go faster.
Stay on the porch.
Hey, I may not be fast, but it makes me sound good.
And the number 1 reason you would not make a good dirt track driver, if a tub of butter still won't get you through the window of a race car.
Joe Koziski might have something to say about that.
Dan, you ain't going to make it.
Joe Koziski, I mean, he's put on a little weight since he retired, but he can still make it through. But he said himself he needs about half a tub. So if you need a full tub, you're not going to make it.
See him at Koziski Auto Parts. He'll be happy to take your tub of butter.
Hopefully he's not listening. Andrew, do me a favor. This Sunday morning, just make sure all the radios are turned off in the Koziski household.
I'm just going to make sure every big driver I know, I'm going to throw a couple out there. Steve Kempe, Chris Speaker, of course my dad, and anybody else.
Scott Carlson.
Scotty's not as big as them. Scotty lost a lot of weight, but anybody that's a big boy in racing, we ain't saying
Chad Sanders.
We don't want nothing to do to you.
Yeah.
Oh, we could go all night with Chad.
And I mean, even up on the NASCAR level, I mean, Tony is not in shape at all. He looks a lot like Buddy when you're doing the profile shot because it's thin, bulge, thin. We're going to go into turn 4 and we're going to do a final opinion on the season. We're going to wrap everything up and then give you some big news that we've got to announce still to come. This is The Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This is Andrew from Koziski Auto Parts. Koziski Auto Parts is an insurance-quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke-down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next-day fashion. Koziski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Koziski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Koziski Auto Parts. Our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
This is The Front Stretch on AM 590, brought to you by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
Well, we're almost done with the show. We've got just one last turn to go. This is The Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Are you guys running any kind of holiday specials, or are you doing anything
we're priced so low compared to the national average that we really it's not that we don't want to offer special pricing. We can't because we're priced so low.
Well, there's a bottom line for you guys, and it's expensive to keep. To keep dirt track cars on the dirt track. It's expensive. I've watched.
After you've been in there, yeah, trust me.
Listen, I'm really sorry about that hairpin turn. I didn't realize
we had to rebuild
the
wall.
Yeah, and I'll come back and patronize you guys to. Well, maybe it's better if I don't.
About 100 times.
Maybe it's best if I don't. It'll be more cost effective if I don't come race there anymore.
Saves us money.
23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, across the street from the AMC Theaters and Bass Pro Shop in that area, Quaker Steak and Lube, Ruby Tuesdays, the Holiday Inn Express, all in that area there on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs, and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. I posed a question to you guys several weeks ago, and I've let you guys kind of think about it a little bit. I'll take the lead and throw out what I would change about NASCAR the most. And this was a question we talked with some fans. If they had one thing to change in NASCAR, what would it be? We had a lot of really good answers. The one thing I would change, and I'm adamant about this, but I'm not entirely sure how they would pull it off, but I think NASCAR should seriously think about it. I think they should shorten the races for the Cup level. I'm a huge proponent of Truck and Nationwide because in Nationwide and Truck, they've got far less laps to get it done than the Cup guys do, and they have to get up on the wheel. If a good driver, let's say somebody like Elliott Sadler, qualifies 20th, at Homestead, I believe they had 125 laps to get it done. That was about 3 green flag stops, maybe 4 green flag stops. My suggestion for how you would trim it down, just make it very simple. If a race goes approximately 5 green flag stops, I would trim out 1 green flag run. I think that will make the competition get up on the wheel a little bit harder. I think it'll also put more pressure, as if the crew chiefs don't need more pressure. It'll put more pressure on them to make sure their car is completely right by the time they take the green flag. They've got 3 practices to work on it, plus all that week to get it set up correctly. If you've got one last green flag run to get your car right, it's going to be more pressure to make sure that your car is correct because you're going to have less time to work on it, less time to get it right.
I totally agree with shortening the race lengths. I love NASCAR just as much as any other race fan, but I've been to a couple Nationwide Series races. I didn't think much of them until I went to 2 of them this year, and my God, you couldn't have said it better, Dan. It's a shorter race. You got to get up on the wheel.
And I think the other thing it'll help out with is cost. And how much it costs these teams to go there. There would be less engine failures. There would be less gas spent. There would be less tires. I was shocked to find out how much one Goodyear Eagle tire cost. $325. Not for a set.
For a tire.
For one tire. And I mean, they go 50, 75 laps on these tires, and then they go get 4 fresh. Good God. That's, what, $1,300 per pit stop you're running. So, I mean, it would that it just kills me that that's how much it costs. So it would trim down on costs a lot. The other thing that it would hurt is you've just signed these massive contracts with your media sponsors, Fox, Speed, and ESPN. So what would you have to give some of that money back if you're going for less length of race because it's less commercial time to sell, less sponsorship availability, and the sponsors on the cars, they're getting less exposure because there's less racing. So, Andrew, what would be one thing you would change?
What I want talent in the sport. I don't want money to pay for these drivers to get into it. I don't want to see the same drivers for 20 years racing. I want it to be like professional football, professional baseball, professional basketball. Every year, 5 guys from the dirt world, 5 guys from ARCA, somebody else gets up in there and has a chance to qualify, or Joe Gibbs has to go around. He's got to find guys to race somewhere. Why haven't guys around the dirt circuit like a Kyle Burke? I bet you Kyle Burke could go up there and outwheel over half of those guys. Why aren't they up there? You see Carl Edwards, Clint Boyer come from the dirt world. Look at these guys up there. Keselowski come from the background of racing all the time, and he wasn't just, I don't want money to pay my way in. I don't want to see the guys like the Dillons, the Logano. I don't want the money to pay their way in. I want real talent that somebody had to try out. They had to get drafted. They had to get viewed. Something big up there, because I see too many good drivers that don't get the chance to go pro, and something they worked hard and loved to do because they didn't have the money to do it.
I think one shining example you're talking about there, Andrew, my favorite driver, Jesse Sabine. I mean, the guy wins everything there is to run. He won't win all of his races in his career, but he may never have the shot to go NASCAR because he doesn't have the millions and millions behind him. But he's got all the talent in the world to get the job done. Dylan Smith, he's another bright example. I believe it's your brother-in-law, Bill Layton. He's capable of doing it. Jack Dover's capable of doing it, but they don't have the millions.
Well, but the tough thing is, I'm going to disagree with you guys a little bit. The problem is, in football, how many starting positions are there? There's what? Give me a number. How many teams are there in the NFL? 36?
31, yeah.
And you've got starting positions on offense and defense, plus you've got second string and third string. There's, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, there's 50 available positions on a football squad per team, times 36. There's a lot more availability to get onto a football field. Same thing with baseball, same with basketball. What I'm getting at is that there is 43 starting positions in a NASCAR race. There is 38 in a nationwide race, and there is 36 in a truck race. There's just not enough availability.
What I mean is I'm kind of thinking like quarterbacks. You know what I mean? A quarterback gets 2-3 years, they're done. They can't give. I mean, some quarterbacks go for a long time. I'm just going to throw one quick name I see right here out is Jamie McMurray. Great racer. What have you done in 3 years?
I got to go. I think that has more to do with the organization than the driver.
Pablo Montoya. I mean, they got to find something. I mean, Penske was never been really good. Keselowski wins in 3 years to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Clint Boyer comes into Michael Waltrip. I think you should give them 3 years. If they can't figure it out, bring somebody else in that thinks they can do it.
I think you do have that in this sport, though. I think it's more cutthroat than ever, because if you don't cut it, you've got 1 or 2 races to make it, or you're not going to get your next chance. I think because there are so few positions. But the thing is that when a driver is talented, when you talk about baseball and football and your quarterbacks, the thing is that in 3 years, it's not that their talent level has dropped. It's that they're physically unable to perform at the level they are. Let's face it, NASCAR drivers don't get beat up as much as an NFL quarterback or even a college quarterback, but you still have to be physically fit and you still have to be good. The thing is that your talent level can carry you for much longer. Your longevity is a lot longer. The Brett Favres of NFL, that doesn't happen. Does not happen. But your Mark Martins, that can happen a lot more than it can for Brett Favre. Buddy, what's your thing you would change?
The one thing I would change, and it kind of goes in tune with what Andrew said here, the format on how we run NASCAR races. I like the qualifying. I like all that. You know, take Daytona 500 this year, for example. Let's say 50 cars show up. Only 43 are going to start the race. So we run those 43 cars. The very next race, I can't remember where that race was, but the very next, at Phoenix. So at Phoenix, we have 50 cars show up. On the 50 cars, you run your qualifying. Then what you do is on that qualifying, whatever the top 43 fastest cars are, at that point, and Andrew, you might understand what I'm saying here, on those 43 cars, line them up by point average. That means...
But you don't have an average at Phoenix. You have what you finished at Daytona.
I know. So what you do is at Daytona, if you're starting, let's say last and you win the race, regardless where you start, but if you win first, once you qualify, because at Phoenix, if you had 50 cars show up, you're trying to get new blood into the sport. So let's say whoever qualified at Daytona may not have qualified at Phoenix, but maybe 2 or 3 other guys did. Well, then what you do starting at Phoenix, those 2 or 3 guys that don't have the seat time and the experience in the NASCAR level, start those guys up front, and then behind those guys, you take, just like the dirt track on the point average, and say, okay, you 23 guys, you guys are at Daytona.
You kind of said that wrong. The new guys wouldn't have an average, so they'd have to start last.
Okay,
I get what you mean by the guy that won Daytona would have to start 43rd if he had to.
Okay, I misquoted myself. You see what I'm going after.
That kind of scares me a little bit. I don't like me myself personally. I don't like a big invert because I was that guy that was terrible, and they put me on the front row, and I caused a pile up. That's the kind of stuff I don't want. It's a slow, stalling park car starting on the horn every
But
day.
it adds drama and excitement to the race.
I don't think it will add drama and excitement. I think it'll just add a massive accident at the beginning. Because let's face it, if
we don't have them now?
Okay, a lot of these drivers that are qualifying 43rd, they're starting parks. So why in the hell would you want to put them front row? Because they're going to run one lap, and the thing is, they don't have the engine technology. So while the rest of the guys are running a $183 into turn 1, they're running a $175.
Morgan Shepherd's going to get ran over.
The only other thing I would, but Dan, you may not remember this series. The only other thing I would change into NASCAR, and it's not really changing NASCAR, I would bring back, simply put, the IROC series.
I remember the IROC.
Oh, I didn't know if you remember the IROC. I absolutely love the IROC because it did exactly what Andrew said. It took people from all venues of sports, put them on the track with the same car, same setup. Have at it, boys.
It's not like just because they're not in a NASCAR
you would have
sanction.
You would have a World of Outlaw driver. You would have an NHRA driver. You'd have a NASCAR driver. You'd have a Nationwide driver. You'd have an off-road, 4x4 pickup from the Ironman Series driver. And you'd put those guys on a track and say, have at it. That, to me, was really cool.
Well, I got to imagine that NASCAR didn't get rid of that because they didn't feel like it was beneficial. I got to imagine it was just not financially viable. I mean, the tough thing about the Camping World Truck Series, even though I think it's one of the best series out there, I think it's far better racing right now than the Cup Series, is that there are not butts in seats. I cannot imagine the Camping World Truck Series is a very profitable series for NASCAR. The best thing going for it, and it's just like AAA baseball, it's just like D-League and basketball, it's a feeder league for the big boys that are making all the money. So they subsidize it. They go ahead and pay for it and let it lose money because it's doing the best thing for it. So you would you would change up polling, the way that the qualifying happens, basically.
You're going to qualify the same, but whoever qualifies, then you structure the race lineup differently, is what I'm saying.
Well, the problem is I think that's far too confusing. If I'm sitting there on Friday afternoon, which I've done way too many times this year, and watched Cup qualifying, and Joe, whoever qualifies 13th, I can walk away that night going, he qualified 13th. I don't have to sit there and go, he qualified 13th, but this guy didn't start, qualified. So the thing that NASCAR got away from 2 years ago with the new point structure was that it was confusing. You couldn't add it up in real time. It was 5 points for every position, plus 10 points, plus this. And what it did was said 1 point per position, 1 point for leading a lap, 1 point for winning leading the most laps, and 3 for winning the race.
Can you tell me how we line up a feature on a dirt track race?
No, because it's kind of confusing. And I called 13 dirt tracks this year. I couldn't tell you what started it because I've had somebody explain to me 4 times. And at one point in time, my eyes rolled back in my head, and I went, you know what? I'm better off just reading off the list. That's my point, is that I may be more dumb than the average person, but I don't get it. I've had it explained to me a couple of times, and it changes per track. It changes, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother committing that one to memory because I'm going to see that whoever's on this position, great. I don't really care why he got there.
Okay, fair enough.
I agree. There's a lot of people still don't understand every single week how I get a start on the pole because I ran dead last week. But
if you're going to be a successful sanctioning body of sport in this world, it's gotta be simple. It has got to be simple.
Let me ask you this: in dirt track racing, now you're a track announcer. You watch the races. Do you think dirt track racing would be better if we went to a NASCAR style lineup?
No. Because the thing is that you're talking about local dirt track.
There's too many certain fast guys. If you put them all in the front row every single week, you put Josh Mose, Kyle Berg, you put Jesse Saubing on the horn every week.
He's gone.
Watching it.
The biggest difference in dirt track, there's 10 to 20 to maybe 25 cars on the track at one time. NASCAR, there's 43. So if Jimmy Johnson, if your points leader started 43rd each and every week, they would be more than irate because they would get caught up in accidents every single week with those 30th to 42nd drivers who were just, I'm sorry to say it, they're crap. They're not very good drivers, and so they get caught up because they make the simple mistakes. So, no, the way NASCAR does it works for them. The thing is that qualifying is just never going to be that interesting. It's never going to be a big attention grabber. It's never going to be a huge ticket seller. So you're just going to have to find something that works the easiest and just stick with it, and that's just going to be your cross to bear. But a big announcement that we wanted to try to get to, that excited to announce that we have inked a deal to continue throughout the rest of the year. The front stretch was originally scheduled to end today, take a 12-week break, come back the week before Daytona, and get you all caught up. Joe Koziski said you guys need to continue to do the show because we all love it, we support it, and we want to keep hearing all this stuff about dirt track and NASCAR.
So we have 12 more weeks of Andrew?
We do.
Oh, dear Lord.
Although... If you could just step into my office, I got to talk to you about something. We've decided to move in a different direction. No, I'm just kidding. All of us will be here. In fact, we're going to start a new segment called The Legends of Dirt Track, and it's going to be co-guest hosted. Hell of a title by Joe Koziski. I wanted somebody to come in here and sit down with us and talk about these legends, and frankly, I don't know any of these guys. I don't know the legends of dirt track. I know you know a few of them, but you don't know a lot of them. Hell, Joe's raced with some of these guys. So let's have him sit down here and run the interview. So that's going to be a portion of the show each and every week. If you will do me a big favor, go to our Facebook page. I ran a question earlier this week of who you would want to have interviewed. Unfortunately, it turned into a contest between Scott Bloomquist and Denny Hovengay. He used to race at Crawford.
Oh, okay.
So it became a contest between those two guys. And then later on in the day, Jay Opperman got thrown in there. So please do me a favor. Go to our Facebook page. If you know of a legend of dirt track, I hate to break it to people, but we're not going to get Scott Bloomquist.
Probably not.
Scott has no interest in talking to us. Hell, we couldn't even get Jesse Sobbing to come on the show this year.
Well, he's a legend. Maybe we could.
He's not a legend.
He's got to be retired.
Yeah. But
John
please
Kinney Jr.
Go to our Facebook page and express your opinion. Who do you want to have interviewed? And we're going to start that up next week. And we want to thank you, a big thank you to Koziski Auto Parts for forking over the dough to support us for 12 more weeks. When we get back into the regular season, Joe's Karting will be back on. Obviously, we thank them profusely. And we want to thank all of our sponsors this year who have helped us so much. Between Auto Connection in Lincoln, between Koziski Auto Parts, Joe's Karting, the primary sponsor of this show, even the Party Pantry, who helped us out for half a year before they had to close their doors and had to walk away. You know, I want to thank all of our sponsors that have helped us out throughout the year to get this show on the air. It's been great, and we'll be back next weekend with another great show. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, congratulations to Brad Keselowski. We hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving. Your work week is just around the corner, but until then, enjoy your Sunday off. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Summer's winding down, and before you know it, we will be dealing with sub-zero temperatures. Now's the time to get your car or truck serviced at Auto Connection in Lincoln. Family-owned and operated, Kevin and his crew will do a thorough inspection of your vehicle to make sure it's in peak running condition. Finding potential issues before they fail is always less costly than waiting until it's too late. Schedule an appointment online today at AutoConnectionLincolnNE.com or give Kevin a call today at 402-477-8200. Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278. This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Become a fan of the Front Stretch on Facebook or email Dan, Buddy, and Andrew at frontstretch590am@gmail.com.